Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all good? I hope so. Y'all, let's go ahead and get into the $1,000,000 deception, okay? And this is part two of the trilogy, and it picks up 4 years later. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and Lewis was lying there wide awake because he was nervous. He just woken Monica up with soft kisses after slipping an engagement ring on her finger. After she finally woke up, he asked her, "Will you marry me, baby?" It seemed like forever before she said anything, but it had only been a minute. Louis turned his bedside lamp on and told Monica that it was a simple question, so what's the matter? Monica, she tried explaining to Louis that it was a little bit more complicated than that. She hadn't even been divorced for a full year, and she just wasn't ready to jump back into a marriage. Louis thought that it was just an excuse. He felt like Monica just didn't want to marry him. Monica told Louis that it was almost 2 in the morning and she was not about to have that conversation again. Louis got mad, got out of bed, and started putting on some clothes. Monica wanted to know what was he doing, and Louis told her that he asked her to be with him and she said no. So he leaving. Monica rushed over to him and told him that's not what she said. She said that she didn't want to be married yet. But Louis felt like that was the same thing. He put on his shoes, put a few more clothes in a bag, and Monica wanted to know, "Where are you going?" "I don't know, but we'll find a place." "What do you mean we?" "Monica, I'm not leaving my daughter with you. If you don't want me, you don't want her either." Louis went into Layla's room and scooped the sleeping 3-year-old out of her bed. Monica pulled on his arm, whispering for him, like, "Don't do this right now. You can wait until the morning." "Why? So you can say no when the sun is out?" "No. If you want me to stay, you'll say yes to my proposal." Monica, she looked at him and she had to think about it. Because she loves Louis and Layla. But she was not about to be pressured into marriage. She just looked down at the floor and told him that she couldn't say yes right now. Louis held out his hand. "What?" "The ring, please." Now, let's see what's going on with the woman who came in clutch at the end of the $1,000,000 divorce, okay? So Tori Billups laid in bed holding her pillow tight, but she wished that it was her husband. He'd been missing for 7 days now, and she didn't know what to think. All she remembered was making her husband breakfast, then seeing him off to work. He walked out the door on his way to the airport for a business trip in Detroit. That was the last kiss she'd given her husband, and he has yet to return. After 2 days, Tori was very worried. She talked to one of her best friends, and no, they were trying to comfort her, whatever, and give her words of encouragement to ease her fears. She even said that maybe his plane got rerouted and maybe he lost his phone. Tori knew what her friend was trying to do, but she didn't believe her. So the next day, she went down to the police station about a missing persons report. They told her as soon as they heard something, they would contact her. When she returned home, all she could do was cry and say, "Why are you doing this to me?" And she thought back to when she first met Glenn in the grocery store after she fled Chicago with all that money that she got. So she moved to Torrance because she wanted to make a new beginning. She was doing fine the first couple of months, but then she started to get lonely. She wanted to find love again, but she was scared. She was so worried about being lonely that she ended up getting a really bad migraine one night. So she went to take something for it, but she grabbed a bottle of her night-night tablets that was prescribed to her. She was looking at herself in the mirror thinking if she just took those, all of her lonely nights would be over. She poured all the tablets into her hand, looked at her glass of water, and thought, 2 quick motions, and she'd never be lonely again. She raised her hand to her mouth, but she stopped. And she was glad that she did, because if she would have done what she was thinking to do, she wouldn't have met Glenn that day at the grocery store. She remembered standing on the cookie aisle, and this nice looking guy asked her which cookie was better between Chips Ahoy or Oreos. Tori knew, she knew that's a come on line. So she said, "Why you asking me? You're the one that has to eat them." So he opened up both. He ate one of each and offered one to Tori. She couldn't help but laugh, but she took one as well. Then 2 weeks later, he was in her bed. They was getting in it. 4 months later, Glenn proposed, and she said yes. And 2 months after that, they got married. She didn't believe she would find love after Nate, but she did. One morning, her and Glenn were chatting like they usually do when they sat down to eat breakfast, and he, was still talking about wanting to start his own consulting firm. He just had to find investors. Tori knew that Glenn could do anything that he set his mind to because he was a very intelligent man. He could run the financial consulting firm where he worked with his eyes closed if he wanted to. Tori told Glenn not to worry about investors because she had a little something in the bank. She was thinking about the money she had left Chicago with that amounted to well over $1 million. Are you sure? Positive. Glenn hugged his wife, thanked her, and told her that they were partners then. Tori snapped out of her daydream, and it was 5 in the morning. She had not gotten any rest. It was now 8 days, and all she could think about was her husband lying somewhere in the dumpster. Then all of a sudden the phone rang. Tori grabbed the phone fast. Glenn? Mrs. Billups? Yes? This is Detective Reynolds. I'm going to need you to come down to the city morgue. We found someone who matches your husband's description. All Tori could think while walking down that long corridor was that her suspicions were true. Her husband was gone, and that explained why all of her credit cards had been declined when she tried to buy groceries. Tori told her friend Sarah about it. She told her that all of her money had been stolen. Sarah told her that Glenn stole her money, but Tori refused to believe that Glenn would do something like that. Now they were standing in front of this big glass window. The detective tapped on the window, and large white curtain was pulled back. He asked her if she was ready. She said yes, and he nodded at the coroner to unzip the bag. Tori saw a hole that penetrated the left lung, and she just broke down crying. So, is that him? Tori could not contain herself, but she finally caught her breath and said, no. Tori made it back home. She was a total mess. She stuck her key in, but she realized that the door was already unlocked. She retraced her steps, and she was sure she locked that door. She just stood there, and she could feel a presence inside the house. Glenn, is that you? Up here. Tori ran up those stairs so fast, and she saw that his office door was open. She was so ready to see her husband because they scared the mess out of her down there at that morgue. She pushed the door open and almost passed out. Hello, Tori. Nate Kinney was sitting at Tori's husband's desk with his right leg crossed casually over one knee. What are you doing here, Nate? Where is my husband? Tori just knew that Nate had some. His name should be H. Wait, Tori just knew that Nate had something to do with Glenn being missing, because the last time she saw Nate, they were in the courtroom while he was sitting confidently beside his high-priced attorney, looking all smug and thinking that he was just going to go through the formalities. That was until Monica's attorney told the judge that they had a piece of evidence that he believed would alter the outcome of the proceedings. The judge allowed it, and Nate's attorney leaned over to him and asked him, what is this about? But Nate said that he didn't have any idea. Monica's attorney put the tape in, and there, before everybody, was Nate, bucky naked, on top of his secretary, laying that pipe down. They were getting it in so good that the attorney was fumbling to turn the volume down. Note the date and time, Your Honor. This occurred before my client filed for divorce, meaning that Mr. Kinney also violated the terms of the prenuptial agreement. Nate was seething. He knew that the only person that tape could have come from was Tori. Nate's attorney yelled for them to turn the tape off. Tori knew the tape would be damaging, and indeed it was. Monica would get half of everything, and by Nate knowing Tori for as long as he had, he knew that she didn't give that evidence to Monica for free. And thinking back on it, Nate realized that he had been played. Tori had planned that entire night, way before she called and threatened him to meet her or she was going to tell his wife. And sitting in that courtroom, Nate was about to pop a vein. He vowed that whatever happened, he would get his revenge on Miss Tori. So Nate looked at Tori and said, you thought I wouldn't find you? Do you know how much money I lost because of you? You didn't even have to do all that. You could have come to me. I would have given you more. But no, you had to go behind my back and be conniving. You stole from me, Tori. You really thought I wouldn't find out? Tori didn't want to hear any of that. She wanted to know where was her husband. Nate laughed and said, you still haven't figured this out yet. Glenn is not your husband. And his name is not even Glenn. I paid that man to come to California. I paid him to find you, marry you, and get my effing money back. No, you're lying. Glenn loves me. Tori, he does not love you. You're wrong, Nate. Bring him back to me. She went over to Nate, who was now standing, and she grabbed him by his lapels and told Nate that she didn't care about the money. He could have it all, but Glenn loved her, and she loved him. She reminded Nate that he said that he was going to marry her, but instead he fired her. She said she just wanted money for her new life. She deserved that. I moved away, found someone who loves me, and you take that away from me too? Tori was crying hysterically and beat at Nate's chest, screaming, bring him back. Nate, please bring him back. Nate grabbed Tori's wrist and tried to help her catch her balance. Once she got her footing, he passed her a handkerchief and told her to pull herself together. I know you don't believe me, Nate, but Glenn loves me. I believe you, Tori, because I once loved you. But the fact of the matter is, he has no feelings for you. You were an assignment, nothing more. I'm only here because I wanted to see your face when I told you all of this. So do what's best and get over him. You understand? Tori patted her eyes and said, yes, I understand. Then she told Nate that she would be right back. Nate turned and looked out of the window, shaking his head. He really thought that he would get a little bit more enjoyment out of that, but he didn't. But it really didn't matter. He had gotten his money back, and it was securely back in his account. Tori walked back in and called his name. When he turned around, Tori was pointing a piece at him. Nate wasn't bothered one bit. He knew that she couldn't do that to any man, let alone him. And even if she could, he was confident that he could get her to put it down. You're a hateful man, Nate. I thought I loved you. But then I realized that I could never love somebody like you. Nate started to walk slowly towards Tori, telling her to put it down. Tori, taking me out will not solve the problem. You'll still have to live with your pain. Nate noticed Tori thinking about what he just said. Then she said, you're right. And before he could stop her, Tori turned the piece on herself. Nate heard the loud blast, saw the fire come from it, and the mist of blood spray from the side of Tori's head. The piece fell and her body went limp, and Nate caught her right before she hit the floor. Now, Nate is meeting with Mr. Aaron Hunter, aka Glenn Billups, in one of his associates' offices in California. Aaron, let me ask you again. Did you have feelings for Miss Thomas? Aaron looked straight ahead with his arms stiffly by his sides. He was ex-military and he kept that demeanor wherever he went. You gave me an assignment. I did it. You said I was successful. So all due respect, sir, why must I be questioned about my emotional position? Nate stood up from his chair and firmly said, because I want to know. She said that you did, and I want to know if she was telling the truth. Aaron still didn't respond. So Nate continued. Well, you could probably assume that she was pretty distraught about the news, so much so that she pulled a piece on me and threatened to take me up out of here. I see she wasn't successful. No, she wasn't, but she was successful in turning it on herself, and that got Aaron's attention. Is she all right? First, tell me if you love her. There won't be any repercussions. The woman was my wife, and you're still my employee. So tell me, and I'll take you to her. Yes, I love her, Mr. Kenny. I love her very much. I didn't want to leave her, but that was a part of my assignment. Once Nate got his answer, he took Aaron to Tori, and thankfully it was at a hospital. Aaron was so scared about where they were going, but once they got there, the doctor told Aaron that the lead tore into her skull and chipped some of her occipital region away, but the wound is mostly superficial. He said that she should be fine and that she was recovering from surgery. Aaron wanted to know if he could see her, and the doctor said that he could, but only for a minute. Aaron stood in the doorway and asked what could he ever say to make her forgive him. Nate told him that she would forgive him. All he had to do was tell the truth. But what if she doesn't accept it? Then you will have a lot of work to do. And just for the record, I never meant for any of this to go this way. But it did. And I would like to talk to my wife alone. Nate was fine with that, but before Aaron walked into the room, he gave him his pay and told him whenever he was ready to come back to work to just let him know. Now, Nate is back in Chicago, and on the way home, he thought about the whole situation. He hadn't expected it to go like that, but he had gotten his money back, and that was all that mattered. Nate pulled into the driveway of his new 6-bedroom mansion that he had been living in for over a year. He couldn't take living in the penthouse where he shared 4 years with Monica because it held too many memories. Nate thought back to the plan he put together, from how it started with the accident to how it ended with Monica finding out about it. But Nate begged Monica not to divorce him. But with the help of Tori, she did anyway. And she took $15 million of his money, even though she was entitled to half. Nate walked into the house and called out for Mrs. Weatherly, the house manager. But he saw a note on the refrigerator door that said she went to the grocery store. She left him some food on the counter. He sat down to eat and thought about how Tori had ran away from Chicago after she got that money. It had taken him a year to find her and put his plan in motion. Monica, on the other hand, wouldn't be that hard to find because she still lived in Chicago. Nate figured it wouldn't take long to deceive her in some similar fashion and take back the money that she stole from him. All he had to do was come up with a new plan. Nate had been so preoccupied with trying to track Tori down that he had gotten off track when it came to his other mission. He had just hung up the phone with Abby, the same private investigator who helped Tori. He now had her working for him to watch Monica, and she has been on the job for about 2 weeks. So far, he has found out that she was living with Lewis Waters. She used part of the money to purchase the 3-store chain that she was the manager of. She bought $1 million home in the South Loop and was wasting his money taking care of that fool's baby while he lived off of her. Nate was looking through the file that Abby gave him, and there was a picture of Layla, and Nate had to admit that she was a cute little girl with her long black hair and big brown eyes. Nate figured that Monica was treating Layla like she was hers since she couldn't have any children. And that was probably the reason she hadn't got rid of Louis' worthless tail. Seeing Layla made Nate think about the child that he and Monica could have had. He remembered her saying, "His name is Nathaniel, and he looks just like you, Nate. This could be our chance to have a family that you always wanted." Nate didn't want to hear it. He wanted a child that was biologically his. He wasn't about to sacrifice that because she couldn't produce. After his divorce, Nate knew he had made the biggest mistake of his life. There were times that he'd hope his wife would just walk through the door. Whenever the phone rang, he prayed that it was her, but it never was. He soon realized that wanting a child so bad also made him lose his wife. And one day in the middle of his mourning, he started searching for the paperwork from True Home Adoption Agency. He called the number to see if he could stop by that day. When he got there, he saw a lady in a flower printed dress, and he said, "I don't know if you're the same lady, but a while ago, my wife came in here wanting to adopt a little boy named Nathaniel." Then Nate pulled out the picture. Mrs. Walcott said, "Yes, Mrs. Kenny. I wonder what happened to her." Nate admitted that they started having problems, which led to divorce. But even with all of that, he wanted to know if little Nathaniel was still available. "Well, follow me to my office and we'll check and see." Nate's thoughts were interrupted when his office door swung open and he heard the pitter patter of little feet running towards him. I missed you, Daddy. Well, I missed you too, Nathaniel. Mrs. Weatherly walked in behind him and told Nate that all she heard was Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. He couldn't wait to get back here and see his dad. Good to have you back, Mr. Kenny. Come on, little one. Let's get out the way and let your daddy do his work. It's peanut butter and jelly time for you. Yay! Peanut butter and jelly! Nate smiled as Mrs. Weatherly carried Nathaniel out of the room, and he couldn't help but think how this could have worked out for him, Nathaniel and Monica. But she wouldn't even try. There were times that Nate tried to forget about Monica, but he knew that he couldn't. Not until she paid for that money that she stole and everything that she put him through. He couldn't move forward until that happened. Then Nate picked up a picture frame that was sitting on his desk and looked at the woman who was in his life now. Daphne was the third woman Nate had tried to find something with after his divorce. Even though he intentionally sabotaged the other two, Daphne wouldn't allow it. She fought to make them work. She loved Nathaniel and Nate. She was 37, so there was still the possibility of children. But she did tell Nate that if that was to happen, they would have to work quickly. With her being 37 and him being 40, they had no, we ain't got that much time and we don't know what it's going to be. So they even stopped, using protection. But Nate always pulled out only because he felt like they silently agreed to get pregnant. And if it happened, it happened. But until now, nothing had happened. And he was kind of okay with that. And even though he was excited about the possibility of marriage and a baby with Daphne, he knew none of that could happen until he got revenge on Monica. All right, y'all. That's part one of the $1,000,000 deception. Tell me what you think, baby. Why is Nate like this? Why can't he just let it go? And why do he keep saying she stole from me? She did not steal that money, Nate. You owe her that money. It was in the prenuptial agreement. If you cheated, you had to split it. It is what it is, sir. Y'all get down in the comments. Let me know. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll talk to y'all later.